I shot my cousin Emily point-blank in the chest with her own goddamn pistol, right there in the family lake house, and watched her crumple like a cheap tent in a storm, except she didn't die. She gasped, clutched the wound, and whispered, "Grace, what the hell?" "You're me," before her eyes rolled back. And that's when I realized the swap we'd laughed off as a witch's curse from Grandma's old Ouija board had flipped everything inside out. By dawn, I was staring at my own reflection in the bathroom mirror. Blonde hair, blue eyes, the works, but it was Emily's smug face grinning back, and I knew payback was just getting started. They say revenge is a dish best served cold, but mine was forged in the blistering heat of an Iraqi summer, back when I was still just Grace Harlan, the wide-eyed grunt from rural Ohio who enlisted to escape the suffocating grip of family expectations. Emily and I grew up thick as thieves, or so I thought, cousins by blood, sisters by choice, sharing secrets under the sagging willow tree at Grandma's farm. She was the golden girl, the one with the Ivy League scholarship and the silver spoon, while I was the black sheep, trading college apps for boot camp fatigues. "You're my hero, Gracie," she'd coo, braiding my hair before I shipped out. "Don't let those sand-sucking bastards break you."
Lies.
All of it. Rotten to the core like the apples we used to chuck at passing semis on Route 23. I deployed in 2018, straight into the meat grinder of Mosul's outskirts, door-to-door sweeps, IEDs that turned Humvees into fireballs, nights where the air smelled like cordite and regret. My unit got pinned down in a Wadi ambush, Taliban fighters swarming like hornets from a kicked hive. I dragged Sergeant Ruiz out under fire, patched his femoral artery with my bare hands and a tourniquet ripped from my own sleeve, then laid down suppressing fire with an M4 that jammed twice before I cleared it with a butter knife from my MRE. We held the line till the Apaches screamed in, rotors chopping the dusk like a blender. For that, they slapped a silver star on my chest, or they would have, if Emily hadn't buried the whole damn thing 6 feet under her web of bullshit.
See?
While I was dodging bullets, she was back home in D.C., climbing the ladder at Harlan Enterprises, our family's sprawling agribusiness empire that Daddy built from cornfields to congressional lobbies. Grandma's will was the kicker. The bulk of the estate, $50 million. The D.C.
penthouse.
The Ohio acreage split between us, but only if we honored the Harlan legacy of service and sacrifice. Emily twisted that like a pretzel. She forged my discharge papers, claimed I'd gone AWOL after a nervous breakdown, painted me as the family disgrace who faked her service for sympathy bucks. Grace never even deployed, she'd hiss to the lawyers, her voice dripping honeyed venom over conference calls I wasn't privy to. Poor thing's delusional, PTSD from watching too many war flicks. It was all for the inheritance. That cold, hard truth I pieced together from leaked emails after the fact. Emily needed the cash to bail out Harlan Enterprises from a bribery scandal she'd orchestrated, payoffs to senators for lax pesticide regs, the kind that poisoned groundwater and lined her pockets. But the auditors were closing in, and with me out of the picture as the veterinaire, she could rewrite the narrative, spin the company as a philanthropic powerhouse. Her at the helm, untouchable. My heroism?
Erased.
My sacrifice? A punchline in her boardroom jokes. She even had me committed briefly to a VA psych ward, slipped the docs a sob story about my hallucinations, just to seal the deal. I got wind of it when I rotated stateside in 20, fresh off the bird with shrapnel scars itching under my BDUs. The family reunion at the lake house was supposed to be my homecoming, barbecue ribs, Bud Lights, and Emily's fake tears as she hugged me tight. "We thought you deserted, Gracie." Broke our hearts. That night, after too many shots of bourbon, she pulled out Grandma's dusty Ouija board, giggling about channeling the old bat's ghost for investment tips. We were drunk, reckless, our fingers on the planchette as it spelled out nonsense. Betrayal. SWAP.
REVNGE.
I laughed it off as the booze talking, but Emily's eyes sharpened, like she'd seen a ghost for real. Then came the storm, thunder rattling the windows like incoming artillery, lightning cracking the sky open. We stumbled to the dock, board in hand, screaming questions at the void. "Who's the traitor?" I yelled. The planchette jerked. "Yamile." She snatched it away, but a bolt hit the water 20 yards out, close enough to fry the air electric. I blacked out mid-scream, waking to the taste of blood and the wrong set of hands clutching my throat. When my eyes fluttered open, the world was upside down.
No.
Worse, inside out. I was sprawled on the boathouse floor, rain drumming the tin roof, but my body, it wasn't mine. Long manicured nails, silk blouse soaked through, the faint scent of Chanel No.
5.
I bolted upright, heart hammering like a tripwire, and that's when I saw her, me, slumped against the wall, my own face pale and slack, a trickle of blood from the temple where she'd bashed her head in the fall. "Emily," I croaked, but the voice was hers, smooth and East Coast polished, not my gravelly Midwest drawl. Panic clawed at my throat. I crawled to the mirror shard on the floor, her compact, shattered in the chaos, and there she was, Emily's heart-shaped face. High cheekbones, the designer bob that screamed old money. But my eyes, dark brown, haunted, stared back, wild and wrong. The swap. That stupid, impossible Ouija bullshit had done it. Souls traded like poker chips in a rigged game. I touched her cheek, felt the unfamiliar softness, then lunged for my old body. Emily groaned, stirring, her hand, my hand, flopping like a dying fish. "Grace."
What?
"Fuck. This isn't." She bolted up, saw her new form, and retched into the corner. We spent the next hour in stunned silence, piecing it together like a grenade puzzle with missing pins. The lightning surge, Grandma's curse she'd whispered about on her deathbed, some Celtic hoodoo from her Irish roots, a family legend we dismissed as senile ramblings. "If betrayal cuts deep, the storm will make it right," she'd said. And now here we were, trapped in each other's skins, the lake house creaking around us like it knew our dirty secrets. Emily in my body paced, her borrowed boots scuffing the warped planks. "This is temporary.
Some.
Electrical anomaly. We'll switch back." "But Grace, listen, you can't tell anyone. The ceremony's tomorrow. The silver star pinning at the Arlington Annex. If you show up as
me,
it'll blow everything."
The ceremony.
I'd almost forgotten my commendation. Delayed by backlog. Finally scheduled. A quiet affair for a handful of vets, but enough brass to validate my service, to claw back some shred of the life Emily had stolen. "Bullshit," I snarled in her voice, the words feeling foreign on my tongue. "You forged my records. You locked me away like a rabid dog. This ends now." She laughed, a bitter bark from my own throat. "Ends? Honey, in this body, you're the nobody. The dropout. The fraud. Try proving you're Grace Harlan without a DNA test or a psych eval. Meanwhile, I've got your dog tags, your scars, your purple heart. I own you now. That was the moment the fire ignited, low and lethal in my gut. Betrayal isn't just a knife in the back, it's the slow poison that seeps into your veins, turning trust to acid. Emily had always been the puppeteer, strings invisible until they choked you.
But now?
Now I was the ghost in her machine, armed with her face, her access, her goddamn Amex black card. As she stumbled off to bed, in my body, I rifled through her purse. Phone passcode, our shared childhood birthday. Text to lawyers, seal the deal, Grace is out. Emails to daddy's old cronies, legacy secured. Harlan blood runs true. By morning, with the sun slicing through the pines like Judgment Day, I made my first controversial call. I texted Emily's assistant from her phone. Cancel all meetings. Personal emergency. Then, in a move that would haunt my dreams, I dosed her coffee with the Xanax stash from her vanity, enough to knock her out cold for the drive to D.C. No harm. Just haze. She woke groggy in the passenger seat of her Beamer. Me, Emily, behind the wheel, gunning it south on I-70. What the fuck? Grace? This is kidnapping, she slurred, fists balling in her lapels, my lapels. Kidnapping? I echoed, glancing at her in the rear view, her face twisted in fury that mirrored my own from 100 family fights. Try theft. You stole my life.
Eminência.
My honor. My fucking future. Now you're gonna watch me take it back. She lunged for the wheel. But the sedatives won. She slumped against the window, snoring softly as Ohio blurred into Pennsylvania. It was wrong. Yeah, driving your swap soul across state lines like contraband, but damn if it didn't feel like justice. Raw and unfiltered. The American way. Take what's yours. Consequences be damned. We rolled into D.C. By noon, the Potomac glittering like fool's gold under a steel-gray sky. I ditched her in a no-tell-motel off Georgia Avenue, chained the door with a bike lock from her trunk, left her with water and a burner phone I knew she'd smash in rage. Sleep it off.
Cousin.
Dream of the fall you're about to take. Then, slipping into Emily's Louboutins, pinching like hell on my calloused feet, I transformed. Tailored pantsuit from her closet, pearl earrings that screamed boardroom power, a spritz of that cloying perfume to mask the fierce sweat beating her temples. Grace Harlan, the grunt,
Was gone.
Emily Harlan, the queen, stepped out, ready to burn the kingdom down. The Arlington Annex buzzed with restrained patriotism, flags snapping in the breeze. A string quartet sawing, America the Beautiful, vets in wheelchairs swapping war stories over styrofoam cups of weak Joe. I spotted the general first, Brigadier Hayes, bull-necked and bemedaled, shaking hands like he was running for office. MS. Harlan, he boomed, mistaking me for her. Pleasure to have family here for Grace's big day. Tragic what happened to her, desertion rumors.
Psych ward.
But this silver star? It's her redemption. Redemption. The word twisted like barbed wire in my chest. I forced Emily's smile. All teeth and no soul. Oh, General, you have no idea how deep her service ran. Deeper than any of us knew. He chuckled, clueless, as I wove through the crowd, dropping breadcrumbs of doubt. A whisper to a VA counselor. Emily's been selective with the truth about Grace's records. A nudge to a reporter from the Post. Heard Harlan Enterprises is knee-deep in EPA fines, pesticides killing kids in the heartland. By the time the ceremony kicked off, the air hummed with unease, eyes flicking my way like I was the fuse to a powder keg. And there she was, hauled in by MPs I'd tipped off anonymously, Emily. In my body, wild-eyed and ranting from the back row. "That's not me. I'm Emily Harlan. Ask her." The crowd murmured, phones whipping out to capture the meltdown. General Hayes paused mid-speech, brow furrowing as he pinned the silver star to nothing. The uniform on the empty podium, waiting for the ghost who never showed. No, screw that. In a heartbeat that echoed like thunder, I stepped forward, shedding the jacket to reveal the fatigues I'd stashed underneath. My fatigues, laundered and starched, tags glinting authentic. The auditorium fell silent as a grave, the kind you'd dig for a traitor on a moonless night. General Hayes's hand hovered, the silver star dangling from its ribbon like a noose, his eyes narrowing at the apparition in olive drab amid the sea of suits.
"Mang?"
"This is a closed ceremony for..." He trailed off, glancing at his program. Then back at me, Emily's face framed by my crooked dog tags, the shrapnel pucker on my collarbone peeking through the unbuttoned shirt. Whispers rippled. "Is that the cousin?"
"No."
"Wait, Grace." Emily, trapped in my skin, sweat-slicked and feral, lunged against the velvet ropes, her voice cracking in my old timbre. "She's an imposter. That's Emily. You idiots, she's me. Call security." For Christ's sake. The MPs hesitated, batons twitching, as the reporter I'd primed earlier shoved a mic forward. "MS. Harlan, care to comment on the family feud? Or the forged discharge papers leaking online right now?" My phone, her phone, vibrated in my pocket, alerts from Emily's inner circle, the board imploding as those emails hit the wires. Bribery. Cover-ups. A daughter's desperate grab for the throne. I locked eyes with her across the room, and for a split second, I saw it, the flicker of the girl who'd shared cotton candy at the county fair, the one who'd sworn we'd conquer the world together. But it was gone, swallowed by the monster she'd become, the one who'd dose my coffee with antipsychotics to keep me docile in that psych ward, who'd laughed as the inheritance checks cleared. "Tell them." I said, my voice, hers, steady as rebar. "Tell them how you claimed I never deployed. How you buried my silver star under your lies to save your rotten empire." The general cleared his throat, the crowd leaning in like hounds on a scent. "Sergeant Harlan? Grace Harlan." I nodded, throat tight, and recited my AAR from memory, the Wadi coordinates, Ruiz's blood type, the Apache tail numbers that saved our asses. Hayes's face shifted, from confusion to grim recognition. "By God, it's you." "The records." They were flagged. He pinned the metal then, the weight of it cold against Emily's silk blouse, right over her racing heart, my heart, thrumming with a vengeance that tasted like gunpowder and vindication. Chaos erupted. Emily screamed, thrashing as the MPs hauled her out, her curses echoing off the marble. "You bitch. You drugged me. You swapped us. This is insanity." The string quartet faltered, notes dying like spent casings, while flashes popped from every angle. I stood there, the silver star gleaming under the spotlights, feeling the eyes of strangers bore into me, not as the fraud, but as the warrior reborn. It was controversial as hell, me, in drag as my own betrayer, hijacking her persona to reclaim my truth. Twitter, X, whatever the hell they call it now, lit up before the ink dried, Harlan swap trending. Memes of Ouija boards and body-snatched vets flooding the feed. Pundits on Fox and MSNBC duked it out. Heroic justice or identity theft? Is this the new American revenge porn? But I wasn't done. Not by a long shot. As the ceremony dissolved into a press scrum, I slipped Hayes my Emily's phone. The damning texts queued up like rounds in a mag. Check the Harlan servers.
Sir.
You'll find more than discharge fakes, enough to bury her in Leavenworth. He nodded, jaw set. And by evening, the feds were raiding the penthouse, agents in windbreakers swarming like ants on a picnic. I drove back to the motel in Emily's Beamer, the radio droning indictments and sources close to the family, my hands, her hands, white-knuckled on the wheel. Controversial? Hell yes. I'd violated a dozen laws, assault with sedatives, false pretenses. Maybe even that body swap voodoo the tabloids would dub Harlan Hex. But in the heartland where I grew up, where farms fold under corporate greed and vets eat bullets from neglect, it's the only language power understands: fight dirty or die forgotten. Emily was waiting when I unchained the door. My old body curled on the sagging bed like a discarded jumpsuit, eyes red-rimmed and feral. You think this ends it? The board's circling. Daddy's ghost will haunt you. And this freak show. She gestured wildly at herself, at me, laughing maniacally. No one's buying your ghost story.
Grace.
They'll lock you up as a schizophrenic. And I'll find a way back. Desperation clung to her like cheap cologne. But underneath, that cunning glint, the one that had charmed senators and seduced investors. She was down, not out. The Harlan in her wouldn't quit without a Hail Mary. We talked, or snarled, through the night, bourbon from a minibar flask loosening tongues we'd both stolen. Turns out the swap wasn't random. Grandma's curse was a half-remembered ritual from her immigrant days, triggered by lightning and blood. Our blood mingled in that dockside scuffle when she bashed her head. To right the deepest wrong, she'd etched in her journal, hidden in the lake house attic. Emily confessed in fits, the sedatives wearing off into raw honesty. The bribes weren't just greed, they covered her own secret, the one she'd buried deeper than my service record. I was pregnant.
Grace.
Daddies, our uncles. Incest tabloid fodder. The company cash. It paid for the clinic. The cover-up. You took the fall for it all. Your breakdown was my alibi. The revelation hit like a frag grenade. Shrapnel of shock embedding deep. I'd borne her crime. Unwitting scapegoat for a family sin that would shatter us all if it surfaced. Phony psych evals. Forged AWOL stamps, all to shield Emily's shame, painting me as the unstable vet who'd cracked under imaginary stress. Betrayal on steroids. Layered and lethal. Why me? I whispered, the words choking out in her posh lilt. She shrugged in my shoulders. Weary. Blood's thicker.
Cousin.
You were always the strong one, the one who could take the hit. Dawn broke bloody over the Potomac, and I made another call that'd spark endless debates in dive bars from Biloxi to Boise. I didn't turn her in. Not fully. Instead, I drove us to the family lawyer's brownstone. Emily slumped in the back, like a hungover prom date. Rewrite the will, I told the stunned suit, flashing Emily's ID. Equal split. No strings, service honored or not. And bury the scandals. Deep. He balked. Ethics clauses, fiduciary duty, but a Harlan glare. Even borrowed. Buckled knees. By noon, the papers signed. The empire halved. Emily's secret sealed in a Cayman vault I'd access later. She hated me for it. Freedom without forgiveness. A leash of my making. You're weak.
Grace.
Playing God with my life. Maybe. But as I dropped her at a private clinic discreet swap research, black budget docs who'd chased the anomaly for grants, I felt the weight lift. If only a fraction. The drive back to Ohio was a blur of interstates and introspection. The silver star heavy in my glove box. A talisman against the darkness. Media hounds bayed at my heels, literally. Choppers thumping overhead as I crossed the Mason-Dixon, but I ghosted them. Holing up at the farm with a six-pack and Grandma's journal. The curse's fine print. Swaps lasted until the wrong is righted. But what was right? Justice. Or just another layer of lies. Weeks bled into months. The swap holding like superglue on a fault line. Emily. Back in semi-control via proxies. Claude for leverage leaked psych files. Anonymous tips to the brass about my instability. I countered from her perch. Donated Harlan millions to VA rebuilds. Testified incognito on Capitol Hill about corporate poison in the water table. Controversial moves. Each won me. The imposter CEO. Funneling blood money to good causes. Her. The reformed vet. Dodging subpoenas with a wink. The public ate it up. Divided down party lines. Liberals hailed my woke redemption. Conservatives decried it as Harlan witchcraft undermining tradition. Protests outside the penthouse. Swap or scam signs clashing with Justice for Grace banners. Turned D.C. into a circus tent. But the tension coiled tighter. A spring under pressure. Emily cornered me at a gala. Me as her. Her as the distant cousin recuperating from exhaustion. Crystal flutes clinked. Power brokers schmoozing in tuxes that cost more than my deployment pay. End this, she hissed, cornering me by the ice sculpture. The docs say it's reversible electroshock. Some shaman shit. But you gotta forgive me.
Grace.
Let go. Her eyes, my eyes, pleaded, but I saw the ploy. Reverse the swap. Reclaim her throne. Frame me as the delusional drifter who'd stolen her life. I laughed. Low and dark. Sipping champagne that tasted like vinegar. Forgive? You want absolution for turning me into your fall guy? For the kid you erased? The legacy you torched? She flinched. The mask slipping. It was survival. Harlan women don't break, we bend. And that's when I bent her world again, slipped a USB into her pocket. Loaded with the clinic footage, not hers, but mine from the ward. Her voice on tape admitting the forgeries. Leak it yourself.
Eminência.
Or I will. Your choice, queen or convict. She froze. The gala swirling around us like a vortex. And for the first time, I saw fear, real, bone deep. The kind I'd felt in that wadi with Ruiz bleeding out. It was tense. As a blackout in a bunker. The air thick with unspoken threats. As she slunk away, I wondered if this was revenge or just mutual destruction. Two souls tangled in a knot Grandma's curse couldn't untie. But deep down, in the quiet hours staring at Emily's ceiling frescoes, I knew the climax loomed, a reckoning that'd either free us or finish the job. The gala aftershock hit like a market crash. Harlan stock dipped 15% overnight. Headlines screaming, cousin coup, identity crisis rocks AG giant. Emily went dark, burrowing into a Hampton safe house with lawyers thicker than flies on roadkill. While I played her to perfection, press conferences with teary soundbites about family healing, op-eds in the Times on veteran erasure that went viral among the blue-check vets. But power's a jealous mistress. Every move I made in her skin chipped away at my own, like wearing someone else's bones too long. Nightmares bled into days, waking in silk sheets screaming Ruiz's name. only to touch smooth arms unmarked by sand rash. The swap wasn't just bodies, it was identity erosion, a slow theft of self that made revenge feel like Russian roulette. Emily struck back mid-fall, cunning as a fox in a henhouse. A whistleblower, her plant, no doubt, dropped evidence to the Post, blurry psych ward footage of Grace raving about Ouija demons, time-stamped pre-swap. It painted me as the unhinged one, the cousin who'd snapped and assumed her persona in a bid for the fortune. The brass called. Hayes. Voice like gravel over the line. Sergeant, this Harlan business. It's muddying your commendation. We can't pin stars on delusions. I paced the penthouse. Floor-to-ceiling windows framing the mall like a conquered kingdom, and made the call that'd divide water cooler chats for years. I went public. Full Monty. No holds barred. The presser was at the farm, Ohio soil under my heels, corn stalks whispering judgment. Cameras rolled as I stood on the porch. Emily's tailored coat swapped for my old ACUs. The silver star pinned crooked over the heart. I'm Grace Harlan, I declared, voice cracking just enough to sell the human. And this woman you've seen on TV? She's wearing my face. But she's stolen my life. I laid it bare, the deployment lies. The psych ward frame job. The uncle's secret that'd poisoned us all. No Ouija woo. That'd get me laughed out. But the betrayal? Raw. Relatable. The stuff of Netflix binges and Reddit rants. Emily didn't just erase my service. She erased me. For money. For power. And yeah, I fought back, dirty, desperate. Because that's what survival looks like when the system's rigged against you. The twist came unbidden. A grenade lobbed from the shadows. As the mics thrust forward, a figure emerged from the tree-lean. Daddy. Or what was left of him. Wheelchair-bound from the emphysema he'd chain-smoked through board meetings, oxygen tank hissing like an accusation. He hadn't spoken to me since the desertion, but here he was, eyes milky with regret, a manila envelope trembling in his lap. Grace, he wheezed, voice phlegmatic. Or whoever you are now. Read it. Inside, DNA results. Not just paternity, but a bombshell. Emily wasn't his niece, grandma's affair. A bastard sister to him. Blood, but not Harlan by birthright. The will? A forgery. Daddy's own. Rigged to favor the true line me. Emily's scramble? Not greed. But terror of exposure. Of being the outsider clawing for a seat at the table she'd never earned. The crowd gasped, cameras whirring, as the truth inverted like a bad trip. I'd been the villain in her eyes, not for revenge, but for unearthing the lie that defined her. She bore my sins, Daddy muttered, head bowed. The bribes, the cover-up for her mother's shame. I made Grace the patsy to protect the name. Betrayal squared. A family Ouroboros of deceit. Emily, watching from some bunker feed, must have shattered her screen. By dusk, she surfaced not raging, but broken, driving the Beamer to the farm in a white-knuckled pilgrimage. We met at the willow tree, twilight bleeding purple across the fields, her and my body looking smaller, deflated. It's over, she said. No fight left. Just exhaustion etched in my laugh lines. The board's dumping me, us. Feds circling the scandals. And you. You win. But winning tasted like ash. The swap held, unyielding, as if the curse demanded more than truth, absolution, or annihilation. I handed her the envelope. We're both Harlans.
Eminência.
Or neither. Doesn't matter. The Empire's dust either way. She crumpled it, tears carving tracks down my cheeks. Swap back.
Please.
I can't. Live as you. The decision was the most controversial yet. I nodded. Not forgiveness. Hell no. But mercy. The kind that stings worse than hate. We drove to the lake house under cover of night. Ouija board dusted off like an old grudge. Lightning obliged. A freak cell brewing over the lake. As we chanted Grandma's reversal, blood pricked. Promises uttered. Right the wrong, we echoed. Fingers on the planchette. And the bolt struck true. Electric fire searing souls loose. I woke to rain on my face. My real face, scarred jaw. Calloused palms. The ache of old wounds singing home. Emily groaned beside me. Blonde hair matted. Her own eyes fluttering open in relief. No words passed, we just sat. Two women unmade and remade. The board charred to cinders in the hearth. Dawn brought choppers, feds, not fans, and the endgame. Emily took the fall, indictments for fraud, perjury, the works. I testified clean, silver star shining, but walked away from the fortune, donated my half to vet charities. A middle finger to the Harlan ghost. Was it happy? Tragic? Ask the forum still raging 2 years on. Grace wins, or Emily framed. Endless threads dissecting if I was avenger or abuser.
Me?
I bought a cabin in the Smokies. Fish the clinch on weekends. Swap war stories with grunts who get it. Emily rots in minimum security. Writing letters I burn unread. The twist lingers. In quiet moments, I wonder if the swap ever fully reversed. Sometimes, in the mirror, her smirk ghosts my smile. Revenge, they say, is hollow. But damn if it doesn't echo.